Watch, in case you did not realize this, Caitlin Clark did not start again. But judging by the response, everybody noticed. Everybody noticed. Paige Bueckers, 12 points. I got to tell you, if the ball goes to Paige Bueckers, forget about it. She's not going to pass it to nobody. That's where the ball goes to die. Kaylee Copper, 15 points, 1 rebound. And Caitlin Clark, 12 points.
The reaction in that moment highlights the growing conversation around how Caitlin Clark is being used by USA Basketball during the early stages of FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying. Through 3 games, Clark has continued to come off the bench. This isn't due to injury or poor performance. She has been productive, including a game against Canada, where she finished with 12 points and 5 assists and posted a team best plus 27 plus-minus rating. Despite that impact, she has now been held out of the starting lineup for 3 straight games, watching the opening minutes from the sideline each time. The situation has started to draw attention beyond the usual women's basketball audience. More mainstream sports viewers, many of whom are tuning in specifically to watch Clark, are noticing the pattern and expressing frustration at having to wait through the early portion of games before she enters. The broader criticism being raised is that when a team's most attention-driving player is not featured early in games, it can affect viewer engagement and the overall entertainment value of the product, regardless of coaching strategy or rotation decisions.
2 points to 19 points, 19 points to 15 points. This game, look, I understand it was a 30-point victory, but there were 2 quarters where it was really competitive. And wow. So Caitlin Clark, let's check it out right here. Kaylee's going to throw the ball over to Caitlin, and Caitlin's going to drive back in the lane after the pass back from Hamby and laid it in right there.
In that sequence, Caitlin Clark takes control of the possession. She drives into the lane and finishes confidently, then steps back to knock down a deep 3 without hesitation. Later, she even hits a turnaround fadeaway jumper that draws comparisons to moves often associated with Michael Jordan. The point being made is that Clark doesn't look like a player who needs gradual integration or limited minutes. Instead, she appears fully capable of performing and excelling at the international level immediately. However, the argument becomes more complicated when looking at the flow of the game involving USA Basketball against Canada. The US built a strong early lead in the first quarter, but the second and third quarters were much more competitive, with Canada narrowing the gap through stretches of 22-19 and 19-15 scoring periods. Without that early cushion, the game could have been far closer. During Canada's push, the player who had come off the bench played a key role in stabilizing the team and ultimately finished with the best plus-minus rating on the roster. The overall point being raised is the contrast between Clark's evident impact on the floor and her continued role coming off the bench, especially in games where momentum shifts become significant.
Look out. Also, what you can look out for is USA Basketball getting demolished. And something I noticed, let me tell you this. When they had the first game the other night against Senegal, they put the starting lineup out there like 45 minutes or an hour before the game. Well, after the backlash of Caitlin Clark not starting in that game, they are not dropping this starting 5 graphic until right after tip-off now. They're waiting till the game is actually tipped off, and then they're dropping this on their Twitter.
In those clips, the argument being made focuses on what happens after Caitlin Clark moves the ball. She passes to a teammate, but in many sequences the ball does not return to her side of the offense. From this perspective, she makes the right reads, finds open players, and then is often not involved again in the same possession. One example mentioned is Paige Bueckers receiving the ball, with the claim that the offense sometimes becomes stagnant afterward, with limited ball movement. Another player referenced is Kara Lawson, who finished with 15 points and 1 rebound, while Clark recorded 12 points and 5 assists in the same game. The contrast being drawn is that Clark appears to be actively organizing and facilitating the offense, while others are described as finishing possessions more directly. The commentary argues this difference in roles is noticeable across multiple sequences rather than being based on a few isolated plays. It is also noted that in the third quarter, Clark had limited touches, entering the game late in the period with roughly 3 minutes remaining. During that stretch, the observation is that the offensive flow did not consistently run through her when she was on the court. The interpretation offered is that this may not simply be a coaching rotation issue, but could also reflect how teammates are currently engaging within the offensive system when she is on the floor.
Meta. Only 2 players have not started for Team USA, Ray Burrell and Caitlin Clark. What? Yeah, that's where everybody noticed it. For the 3rd World Cup qualifying game in a row, Caitlin Clark not starting. That's my boy Johnny Root. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. At this point, it's rage bait. Ain't no way. Seriously, ain't no way. Seriously, CC not starting. Oh, yeah. What is that? Gordon Ramsay? Oh, USA basketball is ridiculous. You are intentionally leaving out your best player as a starter. Yeah, I'm open. Look, people want to say, oh, don't start conspiracies. You tell me, what is it? Yeah, you tell me what the agenda is then. Because for the life of me, I can't think of no good damn reason that Caitlin Clark shouldn't have started the game by now. Seriously. How's a bottom feeder like Copper starting over Caitlin Clark? Woo! I gotta tell you, are you kidding me? Caitlin Clark, you should play for Italy.
After the first matchup against Senegal, there was noticeable attention on how USA basketball handled its pre-game media communication. Typically, basketball teams release their starting lineup graphics on social media around 30 to 60 minutes before tip-off. This is a standard practice used across international and professional competitions to inform fans, media, and analysts about the opening 5. In that first game, the starting lineup was posted in advance as expected. However, following that contest, there was significant public reaction and debate centered around the decision not to include Caitlin Clark in the starting 5. Much of the discussion came from fans and observers who felt her recent performances and statistical impact suggested she had earned a starting role. After this wave of attention, a noticeable change was observed in how the lineup announcements were handled in subsequent games. Instead of posting the starting 5 ahead of tip-off, the information began appearing only after the game had already started. This shift altered the timing of when fans could see the lineup and reduced the pregame discussion window. Some critics interpret this change as a response to external pressure, suggesting that the organization may have been attempting to limit immediate online reactions or avoid pre-game controversy. From this viewpoint, the adjustment is seen less as a strategic communication choice and more as a form of managing public attention. Others, however, may argue that such changes could simply be related to internal media policies, scheduling considerations, or alignment with broadcast timing, rather than any reaction to criticism. Without an official explanation, different interpretations naturally emerge depending on perspective. The broader issue being discussed goes beyond one player or one decision. It reflects how modern sports organizations manage communication in an environment where social media reactions are immediate and often intense, especially when high-profile athletes like Caitlin Clark are involved.